Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today I wanted to talk about this concept. Focus on what you want. All right? This kind of came out of a group discussion tonight. So I'll get to that in a minute. Relax your body so that you can breathe more naturally, slower, fuller. Because a tight, tense body doesn't breathe very well. Shallow breathing happens. So, all right. Focus on what you want. You know, I saw a clip on the internet, and I forget who was talking about it, but they pointed out that one of the main influencing factors of depression is rumination on our problems. And as we ruminate on our problems, those problems tend to stick around, all right? And one of the things they said is that's why exercise is such a good recommendation for people with depression. And helping people with depression ruminate less is very effective, and sometimes doing normal things like going grocery shopping helps ease up depression because we're feeling productive, we're getting out, we're not ruminating as much. That's why one of my core concepts is do normal stuff. Because when we're doing normal stuff, the brain has no choice but to say, hey, look at Dan, he's doing normal stuff, he must be okay. But the concept of focus on what you want is important because the things we focus on the most tend to grow and magnify. So if you're focusing on your TMS, your perceived danger pain, your symptoms, how lousy your life is, how small it's gotten, and if you're ruminating on that and your OCD loop is all over what's wrong, how come I'm not getting better, fear, perceived danger, right? It's going to be hard to teach the brain that you're actually okay if the dominant thought of your day is your problems. And so ask yourself, maybe you're not terrified. Maybe you're not even really afraid because you know what's going on. But if your dominant thought is still about your symptoms, it's going to be hard to turn them off. Because the two fuel sources for things turning and staying chronic is fear and attention. So even if you're not terrified, but if you're thinking about your symptoms all day long, it's going to be hard to shut them off. And if you're thinking about them all day long, whether you admit it or not, there's probably an element of fear underneath it. Maybe it's not fear that my body's failing, but maybe it's fear that maybe I don't have what it takes to get this to turn off. So anytime, I'd love to say, don't look at your symptoms at all. Just ignore them. Well, first of all, that's impossible. You're going to notice your symptoms, but it's impossible to take our attention away from something that we're afraid of. So that's why I always talk about foundationally. Understand what's causing the symptoms, that it applies to you, right? We got to dial down the fear with accurate knowledge that we're really not broken. So why am I so all consumed by symptoms that mean by definition you're not broken and that they're temporary? So fear and attention are the fuel sources. And if you want to have the symptoms be not chronic or persistent any longer, we've got to dial down the fear so that we can shift our attention away. Because if you just try to go do stuff, live your life, but you're still afraid, you're still going to be thinking about your symptoms. That's going to make it challenging for the brain to take the attention away. So when I say focus on what you want, we had a great conversation. One of the group members said, I made a decision to literally say, stop, I'm not going to OCD on the problem. And then they made a decision to OCD on something that they wanted and they were excited about. And so really important to shift your focus away from the symptoms and to make a hard decision to go, I'm going to be aware of the fact that I'm looping on the symptoms. And I'm thinking about the symptoms. And even though I might be telling myself I'm okay, I'm still looping on the symptoms, which means I must be afraid of them enough that I can't take my mind off of them, which is giving them the attention. So, simply put, focus on what you want. Write out a list of wants. What do you want? Write it down. What are you grateful for? Right? It's hard to be anxious and grateful at the same time. So focus on what you want, folks. Because again, what we focus on tends to grow and magnify and get bigger. And if all you're doing is focusing on your problems, they're going to get bigger. Like the story I told in the beginning. If you're focusing on all the reasons why you're depressed, depression is going to get deeper. If you're ruminating on all your problems, you're going to become more depressed. Do normal things. Do normal things. Your brain will notice that you're doing normal things. But the key is if you're doing normal things, don't do it from a place of fear and frustration. And if symptoms come up, you're more in the danger, oh no, this is a problem category. Focus on what you want. And if symptoms come along, do your best to authentically say, oh well, they're still here, but they'll go. They'll go when my credible evidence that I'm okay, which is not focusing on them, OCDing on them all day, when my credible evidence that I'm okay outweighs the brain's false perception of danger. And so, really important to notice where your attention is. And if you are thinking about and focusing on your symptoms all day long, see what you can do to focus on them less. Start shifting away. Start thinking about other things. And when you notice yourself going back to the symptoms, say, stop, we're not doing that. Come on over here. Let's focus on things we want, things we desire, things that are purposeful, meaningful, connection with others, productive. Focus on what you want. That's inevitably going to help you take your focus away from what you don't want, which are more symptoms. Hope this makes sense. I'm going to wrap it up here. But I love you folks, and as always, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.